Yeah, I'm totally okay talking about all sorts of games. Frankly, I'm sick of Shovel Knight. But
Welcome to World 1-1, everybody. I am your host, Larry the Nordic Beast Giver. With me, as always, my co-host, Eddie the Chocolate Nestle Wonderball Magic Head with Thunder from Down Under B.
Hello,
and
everybody.
also, joining us is Ian of Yacht Club Games.
hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Glad to be here.
Welcome. If you guys did not know, Ian from Yacht Club Games, him and his crew have developed Shovel Knight for pretty much all systems, Xbox One, Switch, Wii U. You can find it anywhere. Do pick up the physical copies because they do have digital soundtracks, and the music is phenomenal in that game.
And an instruction manual. We did a whole printed manual and everything.
Oh
So,
my God,
yeah.
the manual is fantastic. It's a beautiful work of art.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it. That was something we took very seriously. It's like, wait, if we can put it on a disc, that means we can put a manual in there, can't we? And so every version, Vita, PS4, all those versions have a full color manual as well.
And if you own the 3DS XL, and if you own the Wii U and the Switch, and you can find you a Shovel Knight amiibo, do pick that up also.
You get some righteous co-op and a few other awesome features.
Yeah, we actually, in the most recent update, we've actually expanded co-op to all the platforms, amiibo or not. And so, but the Shovel Knight amiibo still brings about Custom Knight, which is like a leveling up system where you unlock all these abilities, and customization and a few challenges. So yeah, if it strikes your fancy, I do recommend it.
Yes, I have.
It's a beautiful little piece of toy too. I mean, it's just so well done.
I mean, it adorns all of our desks here, so I would say I'm a fan, but maybe I'm a bit impartial.
And actually, while we're talking about it, I know I've heard this story elsewhere. For anyone listening may not have. Tell everyone a little bit about how the Shovel Knight amiibo came to be, because you guys are kind of the only third party that's really had anything amiibo out there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just our unrelenting irritation to ask for it. When we originally saw the unveil, we were at E3 because we were on the Treehouse stream for a little bit to get to show off Shovel Knight, which we were like already super ecstatic about. And they unveiled the Smash Brothers and the Amiibo line there, and like Sean saw it, and the first thing he says, like, "Can we make one? Can we make a Shovel Knight one?" And they're like, "Okay." Like, well, like right now, like we're just like, here's Mario. It's like, what about Shovel Knight? It's like, here's Link. It's like, and we're like kind of pestering about it, and then after a certain amount of time, some time receded into the past, and we got an email saying like, hey, so are you guys actually serious about wanting to make one? Because if so, we can talk more about this. And we're like, yes, like all caps email response, like, okay, we're getting in our car. You guys live what, in Washington? Is it state or the capital? Either way, we're heading there. And so we took two cars to different places, and one of us ended up there. And so, yeah, I think it was just a lot, like we were very excited about making that possible. And so I guess we were fortunate that we could. And then a lot of it was a learning process, though, because while we had certain, like, we've done some merchandising in the past, we have shirts, we've done like plushes with partners like We Love Fine, with Fangamer. And so we did know a little bit about like, getting these turnaround sheets and, being really picky and irritated about all the samples and things like that. But we really didn't have the full scope of like getting this thing on a shelf, making sure the packaging is correct and all the details are there. And so a lot of that was learning on the way. But now that it's all behind us, it's like, it was worth doing. Like, I'm happy that we were able to do it. To the right of me, which doesn't matter because this is audio, but maybe to the right of your ear is Nick Wozniak, who just joined me, who's also from Yacht Club.
It's my job to be picky about those things, like the way the art looks and and how the models go. So.
I just say everything looks like Shovel Knight, looks fine. You're like, oh, that's not the curvature of his skull.
Nick, can I please have your T-shirt and whatever coffee cup you are drinking out of? That T-shirt is amazing.
Okay, so just for viewers at home, Woz is wearing the Azure Striker Gunvolt shirt, which I believe is available at Fangamer.
Yeah, it totally is.
And what he's drinking out of, no joke, is a Silver the Hedgehog Sonic mug that I believe we found in Little Tokyo.
Yeah.
Just going to hold it up for our viewers at home. You got excited, but it's Silver the Hedgehog. It's like, it's all there.
Nice.
Beautiful.
You know, can I tell you, at first I thought it was Mega Man X. Like,
we've tricked you.
It's way better than that.
That's what we do. We put the camera really far back, and we walk forward with the character, and it's like, surprise, and it's always Silver the Hedgehog.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. It's funny, Game Informer just played Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, a full playthrough. And I'm like, if you want good comedy, go watch that on YouTube. It's funny.
Too hard. That is like really, really hard to watch. There's so many things I just want. I just don't even understand. It's not like it's rushed. That's what it is. It's a rushed game.
Yeah, Sonic Rush. That one was great.
No, different game.
Yeah, Sonic Rush was actually good.
Sonic Rush Adventure.
Eddie and I were literally just talking about that at breakfast on Monday with a friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's too much. That game is like really hard to watch. Even when people were funny, you were
not
playing
Sonic Rush, which by the way is awesome. And for winners,
sure.
Sonic, like that game's great.
Well, let's start off.
What were we talking about? Amiibos?
We're talking about Amiibos.
You can see why it takes us so long to make a game.
But can you just give us a heads up on how you guys became Yacht Club and how Shovel Knight all originated?
Well, we were all previously working together at Way Forward at the time. We worked on like our team in different capacities worked on like Blood Rain Betrayal, A Boy and His Blob. We've worked on Scattered as different licensed products and things like that.
Double Dragon Neon.
Double Dragon Neon was our near the end was the one we were all involved in, and we were like, it's like, hey, this is working out great. I think we can make very unique games, and I would say Double Dragon Neon definitely shows that would be like the case.
Very unique.
we can make like unique games and like the style that we have, like bouncing ideas off one another and like building things up. In addition to the Double Dragon Neon is a team much larger than just us, but not that much larger.
No, and the core of it, like the people that all sat in the same little area were basically us, and we took that workflow and the ability to communicate, and we hashed a lot of those like issues out during the project.
It's like this project's going different than any other project. Maybe it's because we like working as a team together. And so after that project wrapped up, we thought hey, rather than get like split up or scattered to the wind, maybe we could work together on another project. And so we tried to ask the company if we could do that. It's like, hey, can we just like move as one giant blob to another project?
Yeah, make us a small cell within the company.
Right, but like the way that company works, and this is like totally valid, is that there's lots of different projects they have. They and so they need that flexibility to put people on projects that really need it, and they need the ability to get specialists on projects that need it. Like us being a giant binary blob doesn't really work for their style.
Right,
and so it's like, okay, Can I give you guys all the love for Boy and His Blob? One of the let me tell you, I brought that on once again. I was telling Sean, like Shovel Knight and the other one of his other games that you guys, Batman and his friends. I brought that day one. A Boy and His Blob I brought on day one. The art style is beautiful. And I don't want to take credit for a blob, blob or a Boy and His Blob, because I wasn't involved on that one for longer than 3 days.
I was on a very 3 days.
I made an enemy, and Sean's like, get off the project. But Sean was the director on that, and he worked with Mark Gomez.
I did small animations
and realized that animation.
Yeah, I did. There's little frogs that jump around, and there's little snails that kind of roll around. I did little tiny things like that.
But I mean, kudos to the animators that made that art style possible. That was a huge undertaking. Like Way Forward never tackled anything like that So they really did a great job.
Still to this day, it looks flawless. It literally looks beautiful. And yeah, I don't care about HD graphics and stuff like that. I've seen it, and I felt like no other game in animation could touch this game. Could touch that.
I'm glad it could
really
evoke
cool.
those feelings. Yeah, that's something that Batman Brave and the Bold on Wii, where they, which was a project that I did work on, where they kept that hand-drawn art style and like took it to the next level in terms of
both were
on screen.
hand drawn. A lot of those were hand drawn on paper.
Yes.
I think eventually Batman was brought to Toon Boom, but
Yeah, that was digital.
but Boy and His Blob was all done on paper, and they had just reams of it, and where they scan, like they would do the animation, scan it in the computer, and digitize it, and then just like put the paper somewhere else. And so there's this giant stack of all the animations for Boy and His Blob somewhere, and that way forward. Yeah, and the digital cleanup would happen afterwards, obviously, but yeah, Boy and His Blob was cool. It was fun
Yeah,
working on that
and
project.
so for us, like once we realize, once it's like, hey, it's like we understand, but like this might not, like that's not something we can accommodate at the company. We started thinking like, well, like, okay, well, what options do we have? Maybe we should start like meeting on the weekends and like working on a side project just to like keep this creative energy going. And so we started doing exactly that, where we worked on a project, you know, on our Saturdays and Sundays, and would just meet up and like try to hash through something. The game we were working on, we hated it, and we threw it in the trash bin.
Yep. No one's ever seen it.
No one's seen it, and I'm not ready to talk about it. And so, like, the game isn't too far off. In like a lot of things, it's not too far off from like what you would think our team would make. It's like it has like a lot of it's like gameplay focused. It has like a bright art style and things like that. But we were trying out a platform we weren't comfortable with. We were trying to like balance some concessions for like a new style that we weren't really like sold on. And at a certain point, after working on it for like many months, we're like, oh wait, we don't like this. This sucks. And so, or it's like this needs more time, or this needs a solution that we don't have quite yet. But I don't think the idea itself is bad, and or like the world or like where it was headed. So if it comes back later, that's why I'm backpedaling right now. Because I would say this idea is not done.
I'm about to say a World 1 exclusive. What?
And so. So we're like, okay, this isn't working. Like, let's hit the reset button. Let's do something else. And so we all sat down like at a diner somewhere, or like at a sandwich shop, and it was like me, Sean, and Waz, I believe, because it was like on a work day during lunch or like after work. Yeah. And we're like, okay, this like thing isn't working. Like we need to think of something else. And we were thinking, well, it's like, well, right now, like this game uses a much higher fidelity art style. And so that means a lot of our time is spent like contracting art outwards with others.
Yeah,
so,
like most of my job was actually putting down like the just the basic roughs of an animation and not actually animating it myself because it was just too much.
Right.
Like it was more of a 16-bit style versus like an 8-bit, I guess is the most general way to describe it. And so every frame just had like that much more pixels, and it was just too much. Like the art load was huge.
There's very high expectations for like the fluidity of the animation,
right.
The frame count for like a basic character set. Right. And this style is a style that we were familiar working with at WayForward. Like you've worked on 16-bit equivalent games on DS.
But it was always like with a team of like 4 or 5 artists and like
set budget.
A bunch of them are like huge budgets. A bunch of them are offsite. Time.
And so it'd be like, okay, like put together this blob of pixels and send it out. Okay, like let's get this input system working. Oh, the animations aren't working because we need to make these changes, and that'll take like 2 weeks turnaround time to get them back. And so we're like, okay, maybe that's a part we can start at. Maybe the art style needs to be simpler, and we need something that we can all, like the team, like us, 5-6 people, that we can all work on ourselves, and we could all make steps forward. We can all revise. We can all talk about all in-house, all as one small tiny team with no money. And so that's when we decided, like, okay, well maybe that would inform the gameplay style too. Like what gameplay style and art style would be like something that looks straightforward initially, but actually has like a lot of polish and a lot of intention under the hood. And I think that's when we it's like, well, maybe it should be an NES inspired game. Like first off, that's like an era of games that we already had pretty near and dear to our hearts. We were already like gathering after work to play Mega Man or to play through all the Marios from start to finish. And so like making a game like that was already compelling in and of itself. But it also made sense just in terms of like what we can do, what every day when we all sit down, we can make a decision and we can put it in the game.
and like see it happen that day.
It. And we can like feel like we've made progress, and there isn't a like a turnaround time, or there isn't a we'll see when like the roughs get back from another country.
Yeah,
it was all something we could do immediately. And
and games like that tend to focus on one core mechanic, and so developing what that core mechanic was became the focus point of this discussion, and that was like an easy way to transition the idea of like what can the game be to like what will the game become if we decide on these core pillars of what the game is. And so we established right from the get-go, it's like an NES art style. It'll have a one character that's like the character front, the name of the character should be the name of the game kind of, and the main mechanic that he has is going to be the one thing that like we really focus on, and then everything else kind of explodes from there. And so from there, like that's how Shovel Knight came to be. Like we talked about what that mechanic was, about like maybe it's the down thrust from Zelda 2, but it's more bouncing and more digging through blocks.
We thought about like the down thrust from Zelda 2 because Sean's a huge Zelda 2 fan.
Yeah,
but we also
I cannot
underappreciated.
I cannot stand Zelda 2.
You better watch your mouth.
We're here on Crossfire. We're going to talk about Zelda 2 today. Some harsh words about its world structure.
The combat in Zelda 2 is great. The level design is like
it's very punchy. Like there's such a feedback to Zelda 2's combat. Like you feel like you're really like struggling to fight this enemy. But like I mean that like you fighting an Iron Knuckle, like you're gaining ground. You're like getting hits in, and you're like you're kind of scared the whole time.
Yeah, it's great.
And so
you're fighting enemies with a butter knife. That's what you're doing. And then you're trying to get their hit detection. It's just like
and so we thought like it's like the down thrust is a cool mechanic, but maybe like we can make it double like 2 steps. Like you flip an enemy over and then you like down thrust to finish them off. And so that was like the core idea. And we thought like, well, what's an attack? What's a weapon that encourages like flipping upwards and then like plummeting downwards? And for some reason we thought shovel made a lot of sense. It's like, oh yeah, shovel is something like you scoop something up with, but also like a shovel is like something you interact like
you
below.
Can, like stab things, like hit them really hard with a shovel.
Right.
It's like violent.
And so we're like, oh yeah, maybe it's like a character who wields a shovel, and we're thinking like, oh, is he like a construction guy, like a Donkey Kong, like a Mario plumber? It's like no. Weird. It's like, is he a character that uses a shovel in a world of everyone who uses normal stuff? It's like that's like too
he should
goofy.
Just be a robot, a blue one,
right?
And like maybe a baby face.
It's like it'd be too goofy if he was like a character that used a shovel, even though everyone's like, no, he shouldn't. And so it's like, what if there's a world where you could choose a weapon that's a little unorthodox, and everyone else does that too. And so we thought about maybe because we were like hot off the trail of Dark Souls or something like that, but the idea of a character that was a knight who was focused in this shovel or like a shovel based weapon, but also there's like other knights all around the world that use other weapons equally ridiculous or less ridiculous, but it was all in the canon of the world.
Yeah, we knew from the beginning that we didn't want to do a garden a garden utensils themed.
Right. Oh yeah, where's Rake Knight and Hose Knight? And it's like that's probably like Shovel Knight 6. Like we'll start getting into that territory where you fight like the order of no rotation or something, and it's a crop thing.
The order of no irrigation.
Right? No, if you don't rotate the crops, you'll ruin the soil, and like that's what Shovel Knight's fighting for at that point. Fight for dirt in Shovel Knight 6. And so. Yeah, so we started exploring that concept from a gameplay and gameplay and character standpoint, making all these knights with different themes, and we kept going from there. To give you an idea of like the power of our turnaround time in art, Spectre Knight, the boss, originally had a much larger scythe. If you could believe it, like it's already pretty big.
It was bigger, like you couldn't actually jump over it on the ground. You had to jump to the platforms to jump over it.
His like the scythe when he held it and when he threw it was like much larger. It was like even in Marvel vs. It would make Marvel vs. Capcom or like Jeddah from Darkstalkers blush because that scythe was like such a large presence on screen. And so so we're like, oh god, like the fight's already like pretty erring on too difficult, and I would say it's still one of the harder fights for a lot of people in the future. But at the time, especially, we're like, we need to draw this, we need to shrink the sprite. This means changing every Spectre Knight animation and this huge like spiraling animation as well. Yeah. And Waz, you're like, well, if this is what we want to do, let me know. Like, make a task for it, and I'll do it. And so that was it. Waz's job was like redraw Spectre Knight's scythe for that day. And so because of it, the fight became much more manageable, and we were able to make such a gameplay choice without having to just settle on it.
Yeah, and it took like a day. Like, it wasn't a huge, enormous, monumental task to redraw those sprites because we're hit within the style is like really small. It's like the Iron Knight enemy came together in just a few hours. He's with gold armor now. He's the guy that's the knight enemy in Pridemore.
King Knight
together in a couple hours. Most of those animations for the initial set for Shovel Knight came together in a day. So it's like working in the NES style is really helpful for us to like make a game.
Yeah,
as five people.
For like timeline historians out there, like when our Kickstarter went live, April 2014 or whatever, I don't know, March 2014. That 1998. that demo, that like what you see in that trailer is what we had. Yeah. Period. If that character went off screen, there would be nothing. And if like other than those enemies, there was like nothing. Like that's it. It was a pitch video. It was a pitch video for the gameplay we wanted. We put together those enemies, those interactions, and those stages. And then once the Kickstarter was launched, we started working on what is now Pridemore Keep as the first level. But we had that playable at PAX, which was only 2 weeks after that trailer was minted.
Ooh. Yeah,
so
I heard the story on 8.4 and I was just like, what?
Yeah. And so like it's like, hey, the Kickstarter's live, we have to like manage that, but also let's make the first level of the game and it should be a full featured, fully realized exactly what we plan to do.
I booked a booth for us at PAX, so if we can't make a game that people can play, we'll just bring a couch and play Mario 64 on the show floor,
and we'll invite people to like hang out and like eat jelly beans or like cake. And then if they're like, why are you here? We'll like, do you want to talk about Shovel Knight?
Sorry.
It's like, if you guys want to make Shovel Knight, why didn't you bring it? We would say it's not ready. But instead, we worked those like 2.5 weeks nonstop, like actually nonstop, very nonstop.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's happening again. And so
flashbacks.
We were like in Sean's apartment with all of our laptops, and we were just like putting together every tile and mechanic of that stage to bring it to PAX to make the best thing we could. And we were playing through it constantly. We were making tiny edits. We were changing the tile sets, and so that the goal, which was to have something that could be done quickly but with polish and intention, was already put to the test before the Kickstarter was even done. And we were able to see the benefits of it, because if we were playing through the demo and thought like, hey, this is like still not good, we need this, we need that, we could do it. We could do it and still make it in time. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
What the finished product that came out is nothing short of just beautiful and spectacular. It's just
thank you.
It's a joy to simply put in your hands and play with. It's every piece of nostalgia without being a direct rip of something, just enough there that you can feel the influence of.
Yeah,
that I can only fathom takes a special sort of challenge to pull off.
That was definitely our hope. We thought like we didn't want to make any like direct nods or anything like that. And a lot of times when we're like designing ideas or talking through it, we're not like, okay, let's play any NES game and take the first 5 ideas that we can write down.
Yeah.
A lot of it's like more like tapping into what our collective unconscious is for like these kinds of games. It's like, hey, put in this fish boss, and someone might think like of the fish boss from Mega Man, but someone might think of like this one weird RPG they played on the NES but no one else did, and somebody might be thinking of just like, it's like he needs to explode at the end, and I'm not going to boot up like a bunch of games. I'm just thinking like, what does an NES explosion look like? And like something like forms in your head. And so I think because of that, we were able to kind of make our own thing, but in a way that feels familiar.
Yeah, it's really helpful having like a baseline understanding of what those games are and what that era looked like, and like having a target. We always had a target. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I think that helped us just as we were developing the game, to having that NES target to hit and having that like
and blowing
idea
past
of
it.
Blowing past it, like
it's like
knowing when we were.
Right. It's like, hey, let's make an NES game. Here's a giant sprite that's half the screen with full color parallax. It's like, yeah, sure, all right. Like we didn't use that as a limitation. We used it as like kind of like an enhancer.
Just like a direction to shoot. It was just like, well, this is where we can go.
Right. We're gonna lie though. Like this is a huge lie. This is like not really how it looks.
People have come up to us and say like, can I run? This can run on the NES, right? Like you guys are running this on the NES, and we're like, no. It's widescreen.
Like not even widescreen, like out of the equation. No.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But it's like sort of, I think you can make something that's very much in the spirit of it, just with like a few major changes here and there.
A few major ones, yeah.
But it's funny.
But it's funny. Go ahead.
Part of the cutscenes in Shovel Knight reminded me the first time I played Ninja Gaiden on the NES. And I was just, and I just like, oh my goodness, they got the feel of it. Because the arcade version of Ninja Gaiden doesn't have that, but the NES, people remember that game who played it.
Yeah.
And like the fade is, some of the intro, and I was just like, oh my goodness, they got everything about the NES era, like, just on lock. And wow.
My favorite thing about the Ninja Gaiden intros is that they're not. They're in a lot of games. Like it's like Mega Man has intros like that. Like the later ones, like that one has it. But I'm also playing like rando NES games because now I'm like playing more and more of them. I think it was Gunnak or the one with the rabbit intro. We used it in our April Fool's joke. But like I boot up a game, it's like, oh, this looks like a fun shmup, and it has like that exact style. And every time I just think like I read the storyline and I think like, this is the weirdest intro to a Shovel Knight campaign yet. Like it's like the rabbits invaded Mars and like Spaceman needs to go defeat them, and I'm like, man, Mole Knight's campaign's getting weird. Like I just imagine all of them are going to ultimately end up as a Shovel Knight campaign. Like it's like, and then the last thing shows like Treasure Knight standing over the valley. It's like, and now he must like approach the Tower of Fate.
Yeah, like the opening to Blaster Master.
Blaster Master has,
like,
oh my.
I feel like, okay, as a community, we need to make a random NES intro generator that pulls these frames from different things and tries to like string a plot thread. Like Simon Belmondo was like at the spaceship, but then the Mars happened, and now Arkanoid is the final straw. Sinistar, and then a random title screen. It's like a title screen like Roads Up, it's like Blades of Steel. Like, yeah, so good. Like you can make a random intro generator.
Oh, you guys have got to do it. I would pay you guys $20 to get that done as extra DLC for this game.
With his arm shattered and replaced with a robot arm, he can only swing from side to side. He's codenamed Viper, and he is in volleyball.
That'd be amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Two-tiered volleyball.
Title screen rolls up, and you hear that wonderful voice of Double Dribble.
Right.
Oh my goodness, Double Dribble and Shovel Knight. I need that. That's the extra $10 I would add on to this. Now, the artwork that you guys did, like the actual drawing and stuff, how did that all come about? Like what style were you looking at when you was drawing it? Because during the NES days, they had different art styles for their box
Mega
art.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer's Mega Man.
Oh, Mega Man.
But like you can see, like the end rendering style is much different.
I think when we were figuring out what it could look like, we were approaching the idea of Shovel Knight being a character that has an 8-bit game, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like we're thinking about this character in more real terms than just like the 8-bit guy, and so like he's a character that exists outside of that. Like you have Shovel Knight, and then you have the Shovel Knight game, and then you have like the Shovel Knight toys, and you have like the Shovel Knight movie, whatever that could possibly happen in the future, or like all these things like reference Shovel Knight that's sort of like not an 8-bit thing. And so like we want these illustrations to have like high res and like be a fully realized character that could like exist in a world that's like more
the same way like Mario 3D on the cover of Mario 3D
right.
is like a cartoon character, and you're like, I want to see what that guy's up to, and the sprite is a representation of his cartoon form,
right.
but is not actually like one-to-one who he is.
Like Mario's not an 8-bit character, he just like has an 8-bit game. Right. The same kind of thing, like Shovel Knight's not an 8-bit character, and so that's how we approached a lot of those illustrations, is to make sure that they had a more realized, like, oh, when I see the sprite, it's a representation of this. And actually, there's like differences, right? There's like some slight differences between the model of the pixel model and the illustration, and that's half on purpose and half like making sure the sprite reads better.
Much like the gameplay style and the game design, where it's supposed to be evocative but not directly cribbing from anything.
Right.
Like the goal was to like make something that like feels like it belongs in the same like world as these other games, but it's not like using the direct posture or rendering style or like of like an exact game.
Or like proportions
of any product.
Like Shovel Knight's illustration, like it's really easy to see. Like his head, he's like 5 heads ish tall, but the sprite is like 2.5. Like it's like a very different person. If you were to make the sprite into like this you would match it into a high resolution thing, it would look very different than the illustration. But like that disconnect is like still like
something that happened very early on, because it was during the Kickstarter, and we're talking about like, what if we did a box? Like, what would the cover look like? And a lot of people would say like, you should do bad box art, Shovel Knight. It should be like totally off key and like not in the tone of the game, and like it should copy like an existing like fantasy thing exactly. And it's like, okay, that's funny, but it's like too tongue in cheek for like the product that we're actually making. And like, we don't want to make something where it's like, you know, Shovel Knight's in like the awkward Mega Man 1 pose, like in a weird like futuristic Las Vegas and shooting a laser gun even though he doesn't have it, because that's like not the product we're trying to make. We're trying to make something like something that is descriptive and feels like its own thing and isn't just like a knowing nod or wink to an existing thing.
We do have a pretty good sketch though of a bad box art Mega Man cover, or Shovel Knight cover, but yeah, that's not used obviously.
Oh, I'd love a chance just to see it. I can only fathom how wonderfully spectacular that is. But
it's definitely a great idea. Like I love seeing it, but not as the actual front-facing product that we're making.
Like that should have been like the flip side alternative artwork for the.
Yeah, I'd be okay. I'd be more okay with
that.
So. What I wanted to ask you about, something that I remember picking up or hearing from an interview, I want to say it's been a year or two now, but that you guys were aiming to do an additional DLC campaign for every one of the Order of No Quarter, every one of the bosses. Is that something you guys are still looking at doing, or now that you're two of them you're just like, no.
I want to clarify that has never ever been the plan, and is currently not the plan. And so the reason, the way our campaign, like the whole game is rolling out, is we did the original Kickstarter for Shovel Knight, and we decided to do stretch goals. And so the stretch goals, which you can see on the Kickstarter page and all that, there's like some extra features like body swap mode, like the music test mode and things, and challenge mode. And we also had the two other like major ones were a set of 3, which was Playable Boss Campaign 1, Playable Boss Campaign 2, and Playable Boss Campaign 3. And the reason those don't have a name is we said we would leave it up to a vote. We also had Battle Mode, and the final one is all bosses playable in Battle Mode. And so we've, thanks to the support of the community, we were able to achieve all of those stretch goals. And so the 3 that were voted in as the playable full campaign bosses were, from first to third place, Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, and King Knight. So for viewers at home, you can play Spectre Knight and Plague Knight now, anywhere Shovel Knight is sold. If you bought Shovel Knight in the past, it's been updated to Treasure Trove, which includes Spectre and Plague Knight for free. So you should boot it up one day. King Knight, we're working on that now, and that'll be the final campaign. It'll be like kind of the finale for us. We're also working on Battle Mode at the same time, and the goal of Battle Mode is that all the bosses would be playable in this mode. So they'll use like, signature attacks and abilities, but that doesn't mean like a full adventure, and that doesn't mean like the same 12 relics, 5 armor sets that all other characters.
Right.
Yeah,
I definitely understand the excitement to see that happen. Like it would be cool to see like what Mole Knight's adventure was, what Treasure Knight's adventure was, but at the same time, like at this point, we want to make every campaign better than the last, and we want to make it like everything surprise and delight. But we're also thinking about like what we want to do next, what our future games would look like, and so that's where we're moving on once King Knight makes his curtain call.
Can I ask, how did what's his name from God of War come about? And
we asked
Battletoads content.
We asked really nicely to Sony and Microsoft, and they both were really nice and said yes. That's actually how it happened.
Yep.
We were excited. We were very inspired by Soul Calibur 2 on PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. In that it brought a cameo character from each platform that really could only be realized there. And so that was Link on GameCube and Heihachi on Sony, which is maybe that one could be realized anywhere. And Spawn on Xbox. Spawn. This is like, This is like, it's like unexpected, weird, and also really cool. And so
that's how the
that
GameCube version sold super well because of Fine with Link. Like everybody bought the GameCube version.
That's a super compelling reason to check. Like, yeah, it's like, okay, Link's in it. He's got the bow, like in a net. All right, I'm in. Like, give me. And so we were very excited to do that too, especially since there was a gap between when it came out on each of these platforms. If somebody was waiting for the game on Sony, we wanted there to be like a surprise, like, oh wow, I can't believe that's in there too. Like, I'm delighted and excited to jump in and see something new, and also like just to play the game. And so,
and also to hear the soundtrack redone by Jake.
Right,
it's like really awesome to hear the Kratos.
I mean, we tried to pull out all the stops in terms of, it's like, their themes got redone. Like, we drew like all the new stages and art. You get an armor set afterwards that like reflects that character. And so, that was an exciting thing for us to tackle, to kind of liven up the just like simply porting it.
Were you guys surprised that when you guys went physical, that people rebought the game, the physical, even though, when your first release, it was only digital on Steam and Nintendo platforms. And then when you guys release it physical, like, people were just like, I got to get the physical copy before it sells out.
I wouldn't say I was surprised. Like, we have a lot of collectors here, like, we all enjoy video games. And so, like, the allure of a collector's edition or a physical disc, like, that's something that I think we've all, like, for games that we felt passionate about, that was something, like, we've made choices about in the past. It's like, oh, I really love this. I'm gonna get the box and let it sit on my shelf because I love this game. And so that was something. I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I'm like very like thankful for everyone's support, that they would decide even. It's like, yeah, this game was worth like buying again. Like, that support is like tremendously helpful for us, especially since we're working on this one game for so long. That kind of support is what makes these updates possible, to make them bigger and better.
I guess I'm surprised when somebody, like, we get an email every now and then, or Twitter or whatever, where someone's bought it on every platform. That's like, whoa,
thank you.
Dude, that's crazy.
So, like, just got done platinuming it, gonna go 3,000 gamer score it. And it's like, wait, what? Awesome. Thank you.
Also, I was on a train ride, so I got them on 3DS.
I'm guilty because I need to buy it on Xbox One and the PS4 because I want to play with Kratos and I want to play with.
You don't need to do anything.
But you know what? That content is so good. To make sure that you guys make another game. That's how some of us gamers are willing to go, is to support you guys, to make sure that your next game actually happens.
I appreciate the support, of course. However, we're going to make another game, I promise. And so I appreciate it. If you're thinking about doing that, that's great.
Yes.
But if you play another game too, that's cool too. Like, I hope. I hope. Something I hear often or sometimes is like, hey, like, I didn't think indie games were cool, and then I played Shovel Knight, and now I'm like playing all sorts of like games. Or like,
I didn't think NES games were cool.
Right, I've never played Mega Man, but I played Shovel Knight, and now I think I'm ready to buy like Legacy Collection, and like that's like immensely gratifying to hear that this has like maybe been a doorway for people to check out more games of this type, or to check out like to take a chance on different developers, or to like kind of explore different games that interest them.
How did you guys feel when the day actually came for you to release on Steam and on 3DS and Wii U? Like, your actual release date. Was you guys just nervous? Did you guys have like a party?
It's a little weird because for those like last 6 months we were working like almost every day, many hours during the day, and so when it finally released, it was a combination of like relief and just like being tired, but also like knowing we still had stuff to do.
Yeah, I would say relief only counts if things were relieved and they weren't. Like, it's like you think like the game is sitting up there and like we're not looking at it for months, but that's not true. We've been making like store assets. We've been doing marketing. We're like preparing for PAX. There's like a problem with the build late, so we have to get it fixed. Localization for like the French manual needs to happen. Kickstarter backers like have questions about when it's coming out, and then once the release date's there, now people are playing it. We have to respond to bugs. We have to fix like FMOD or like DirectX errors on someone's computer. We have to there's a problem on the 3DS version. We have to look at a patch. We still have to go to PAX. Like, I would say it was like a constant pressure that was never ever let up. And so the release day didn't feel like relief. The most relieving part of the release day was seeing that people were having fun.
Yeah,
it was seeing that people were playing it and were like. and were saying, I'm enjoying this, I'm having fun playing.
There's a shift in the
this.
stress. It was like stressing out about the things that surround the game as opposed to like the game itself. Like once the game's out there, you know that people are playing it and seeing the content that you've been working on, but you don't have to worry about that. And I have to worry about like, you know, keeping more people engaged and getting more people thinking about it and talking to press and all that. So it's a different shift of stress, but it's both are pretty stressful. Although I would say
we should never answer this question because it always goes into like don't ask me.
Well, the reason I ask is because, you know, when it came out, for a lot of people, they were just like, this is automatically Game of the Year nominated, Game of the Year. Like, and people were marketing for you guys saying, if you don't own Shovel Knight, you need to have it. People were going out getting eShop cards and giving them to people and buying it on their systems because they were just like, this game is so good that you guys hopefully we're able to like maybe take a vacation or at least take a day off or something and just enjoy the sales coming in, seeing the comments and the positivity and some other criticism for some people.
Yeah,
being able to enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, I'm like the word of mouth telling people like, hey, no, but seriously, like I really think you should play this game. That's what made this game possible or like made this success possible. Without it, I don't think we would be where we're at.
Yeah, my favorite thing of that is we saw like we'll read NeoGAF or like whatever forums are out there and like people talk about Shovel Knight. We'll kind of like peek in and take a look. And there's one guy who's like, hey dude, this guy's I don't know if I should play Shovel Knight. Maybe I should get it. And the guy's like, here, I'll just give you a key. What's your Steam name? He's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. And the guy's like, bro, I got 30 copies of Shovel Knight. I'm ready to go. It's like, why do you have 30 copies? Like, I really like that game. I really want you to play Shovel Knight. And so yeah, I mean that amount of like that's immensely encouraging. Yeah.
That somebody's like, no, like I like this game times 30, and like I want to tell people about it. I want people to enjoy it because I enjoyed it. That's something that like can't be understated. But like as like on the support side, you see like one awesome thing like that and you're like, that's amazing. But then you see one person's like, hey, I'm having trouble getting the 3DS key in Europe. And you're like, ugh! And like that's the thing that you go home thinking about. You don't go home thinking about how like thousands of people love it and don't tell you. You think about like one person was like kind of confused for a minute. And then you like help them, and now they're playing it.
But maybe still confused,
right? But maybe like a little confused about something.
I know for me,
and so it's tough.
I know for me, I brought it on Wii U because I just wanted to see the game in big screen, and I was just like, this game is gorgeous. Like,
did you do the Miiverse stuff? The Miiverse is like really cool. It's like it's still kind of alive. Like it's still like you can go and check out the Miiverse website and see all the cool drawings that are happening. But it's a really cool thing.
I'm gonna miss Miiverse. I'm gonna miss stereoscopic 3D. Like as these platforms, like it's like Wii U is like sunsetting and 3DS is still going, but it's like as they are beginning to close down, like in the long term, it's like kind of sad to see their core features go away because I'm thinking of them through the lens of Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Like before a campaign goes out, we're thinking about making all the layers stereoscopic 3D. And then we're thinking like, in like 2 years, we're not going to do this anymore. It's just like, nobody will see this in 3D. It's just sad. Like, it's not going to happen. And like Miiverse just like, that won't be a feature. That won't be a part of it anymore because there's like new things happening.
Within 2 years, people are still going to be talking about your game because I think right now, Shovel Knight is so historic as an indie game that for some people, it's just like, this is like my top 100 games or top 10 games of all time.
Yeah, now we got to live up to that for the next one too, right?
Well,
we have like strung out the bat.
We should make Shovel Knight 2 the bad one. Everyone's like, should we play this one? It's like, no, it's bad.
No, play this first.
And it's like the back of the box, like this is the weird one where they do a bunch of things you have like a differing opinion about. And if we just say like featuring like an overworld map you didn't ask for, like leveling up that you hate, and like we just go all
different
in.
camera perspective, right? Because why not?
72 hours of gameplay fluff.
Just wait for the third one.
Characters you like don't return, and characters you didn't like are very present. Like, we should just go all out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it says a lot that you guys are so much like one of the biggest indie studios out there, and not just from the quality of product that you put out, but, in the way that you interact with the community, that you guys garner so much goodwill from the gaming community as well. that people want to do that want to buy those 30 copies and give them out to their friends and go, play this now.
Yeah, I mean, that's more credit to
that's
the
a rare treasure.
Yeah, that's the community's like interest and drive in terms of what they want to share with people and what they're excited to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we're like, we would be playing all the Castlevanias from start to finish anyway. So it's great that we also like are able to interact in a way that like around people who are like-minded, that are also like visiting old games or like sharing the core gameplay like kernels that they like.
The weirdest thing for me is like wanting. I want to like I read about these experiences of like people playing Shovel Knight and like seeing these new things. I want to have that. I want someone else to make like the next Shovel Knight so I can like experience it for the first time too. Because like I feel like I missed out, but. That's just like me. Like I
made such a great milestone. I just wish I could experience.
No, I just want to do a discussion. I want to have that same, because we're all like fans in the same way that our community is. Like we like love those kind of games, and like I want to be able to have like more of those really solid 2D platform game experiences in the future. So. Somebody else should make the next Shovel Knight.
I have a story for you guys. I work in retail, and off air, I'll tell you what retail name it is. And a kid and his dad came in, and his kid has multiple versions of Minecraft. And his dad was so sick of Minecraft buying it. And so he told the kid, like, you need to get something that's under $20 or whatever. And the kid didn't know what game he wanted. So I go in and I go help. And I told him, if you want a real good game that's almost the level of Minecraft, but actually a bit better, that's going to give you a challenge, here is Shovel Knight. And I broke everything down. He was getting the PS4 version. I'm like, there's the music, there's free DLC that he'll get, and just giving him all the thing. And the dad was just like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And the little boy was just like, I don't know. I was just like, trust me, go home and play this game. It's a hot seller. This game is really selling. A week
you can
later,
always trade it in later.
actually, know what? A week later, the dad came in and he said, "Thank you for giving me this game because my son stopped playing Minecraft and has been playing Shovel Knight altogether." Wow. And I was just like, and I couldn't, yeah, and I couldn't give. I wanted to sell him the Shovel Knight amiibo, but because he didn't have a Nintendo console, I was just right. I said, down the line, if you decide to get the 3DS or a Nintendo console, this is the Shovel Knight amiibo that he'll be able to use, and it has extra features.
Lure him into the Nintendo camp. You're like, look, if you like platformers, we got lots of great options.
yeah. But I think he ended up buying. One day he actually came in. I wasn't there. He actually ended up buying the amiibo because the kid wanted to know if Shovel Knight had any toys, and he remembered the amiibo was one of the.
That's awesome.
I'm really glad. Like, that's cool to hear that. Thank you for. I don't know.
Chilling for us?
Well, no, for encouraging. Thank you for encouraging it as an option, and to hear that it not only a sale was made, radical, but to also hear that they came back and that he enjoyed it and he was getting into the character, or he loved the idea.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Of everything. That's fantastic. That's the best thing I can hear.
If you see them again, tell them thanks from us.
I will. I usually tell people who looking for budget titles and who really want a good game, Shovel Knight is the one to get. I'm like, if you can't find a physical copy, here's some gift cards for that particular system. Buy it digitally. I'm like, you need to have this game in your library. It's that good, And if it gets challenging, work through it, because that's part of the aesthetic of the game. Like NES games were difficult, were challenging, and you had to work hard to get through it. So, and that's what made the game longer and fun to have.
Yeah, I think that level of persistence, we tried to make it as easy to retry as possible, but not just let you bow out of any.
Yeah, it still demand something from the player.
And so, that's always the hardest part about going back to some of those classic games is I'm just not ready to go through the same pipe section with falling objects over and over again. And so maybe hopefully this is a stepping stone in terms of just stealing your resolve and okay, I'm getting it. It's if I just keep at it, I can do this. That confidence. it's tough. Like I see discussion now, and somebody will say like, "Hey, I died to Spectre Knight 5 times. I'm just the worst at this game." And it's like 5 times. That's like 5 minutes. That's like not that much time. Like don't sweat it. Like just get back in there and you could probably beat him like in your 6th try at this point. And just like don't get down. Yeah, like don't let yourself get down. A game has challenges that you need to overcome. If you started playing like even if you started playing like checkers or chess, any board game, you're gonna lose. Like you're gonna lose because you don't know how all the things work yet. But like the more you play, the more you're going to learn it. And I don't know. And some of those, like a board game, you're gonna play for like 45 minutes before you're like, man, I just don't get Stratego. And it's like, look, you gotta memorize where the pieces are. It's like, oh, all right, maybe like after like a little bit, I'll like
maybe a few more days of playing this.
Anyway, today I'm here shilling Stratego, the hit strategy game by Milton Bradley. It's like Fire Emblem, but you can't see what the other class is until you attack them. Doesn't that sound compelling?
Totally.
Oh wow.
So I want to ask, because going from Plague Knight to Spectre Knight was a radically different campaign. You know, Plague Knight being very much just kind of almost a reskin of everything that was in Shovel Knight versus Spectre Knight being 100% fresh. You know, was there an initial plan for that, or was it just looking at it going, okay, we don't want to just, insert another character over again. We want something 100% fresh. So, and with that change from there, what do we have to look forward to with King Knight?
So for each, we don't start, in the past, we've not worked on a new campaign before finishing the current one. Right. So like we knew we had all these campaigns lined up while Shovel Knight was in production, but for Shovel Knight, we only focused on Shovel Knight. Then once Shovel Knight was out for a little bit, we zoomed out, like moved the mouse wheel all the way out and thought like, okay, how should Plague Knight work? And at the time, like a compelling idea, like these levels were still fresh and this world was something you've seen once. And so the idea of telling an alternate story within the same world made the most sense to us. You'd visit the same locations, but Plague Knight has a different motive and like is a different character, so things would play out differently in this like alternate quest.
And maybe it's like kind of farcical a little bit, and like you see like things like the the battle with Shovel Knight was one idea, like the going through the town and seeing Shovel Knight above you. We kind of likened it to Lion King 1.5, actually, where it's like the same movie but told from the Timon and Pumbaa perspective.
Is that what that is? I thought it was.
Yeah, you should see it.
Don't say that. We need to talk about our marketing bullet points in the future. No, it's like something that's awesome and cool. And so but like an alternate story was something that was the most compelling. It's like a parallel adventure with a different character that plays way differently. And from a gameplay standpoint, Shovel Knight is a character where you see what he can do in the first, 10 seconds. You're like, oh, okay, he does this. Oh, and he does that. Okay. And the rest of the game is about learning about the world. Like, what is this object going to do? What is this enemy going to do? For Plague Knight, you already know what the world is. You know more or less the setups. There's going to be, blocks, and there's going to be a knight that hits you into a pit. Mm-hmm. And so instead, we focused on learning about the character. And so the character has a lot more nuance or a lot more volatility that can be scary, and we expected it to be scary for the entire campaign, because the idea is that either through new abilities or just through your own comfort levels, you would come to grips with how Plague Knight plays, and you would be able to start steering him how you want to and learn how to come to grips with Plague Knight over a world you're already familiar with. So after Plague Knight was done, we started, we let that rest and we started digging up Spectre Knight again, and we thought, okay, who's going to want to play through all these levels again a third time? And we thought the answer was going to be not a lot of people, because not a lot of people even wanted to play through Plague Knight, actually. The number of people that returned for Plague Knight was not as high as we would have liked for a free content update. And so we thought, okay, it's rather than Plague Knight, working on the existing level map creates a lot of expectations. It's what's going to happen at the pond? What's going to happen at the armory outpost? Who are the bosses going to be? And so we wanted to kind of clean the slate on that and start over. And so that's why we decided to set Spectre Knight in a more focused hub, but still has a lot of
more streamlined to the experience, so that you don't have to go through the extra stuff of getting from level to level. So you can just kind of get into it. And so it's friendly to start playing new levels and seeing the fact that there are the levels are actually like very different.
Right.
And also, a lot of the feedback we got from Plague Knight was that Plague Knight was difficult to master because the character was like the thing that you're learning. It's hard to know what you're going to do when you hold that button down, and like charging an attack versus not charging.
Or
like
it's just stressful to charge. We saw lots of people
Yeah.
that just had a lot of trouble charging.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like one of the main things to be approached Spectre Knight was to like alleviate a lot of the difficulty of being the character, and it's like effortless cool was like one of the things we wanted the character to feel like you could just be a badass by just like dashing around and bouncing on things and going through things and being a reaper without having to like really invest your mind into like getting your head wrapped around the character.
Or break your fingers. So yeah, like that accessibility and like the ease of input was a big focus. We still want them to do a lot of things and to have nuance and to have like mastery, but something that wasn't as obtuse and wasn't like was easily learnable from the beginning. And so it's kind of more like a Shovel Knight where you can see what Spectre Knight can do very early on, but now like the objects in the world is what you're thinking about and contending with. And so because of that also meant we wanted to do a B-side of the levels, and all of the levels we wanted to add like new art, new mechanics, new objects, and make it new music, and make it feel like an entirely new thing. And then from there we started like building out, it's like maybe we can pull out the stops in more places rather than go through all the levels left to right. Maybe somebody would be excited to like do a custom order of stages, and so you can select any stage from the beginning. Maybe there'd be like a few more surprises in terms of like when events happen and story events happen, and that's kind of what set the direction for Spectre Knight.
Yeah, and with each of these, it's like fun to also just like highlight different characters. With Plague Knight, it was like him and Mona, like this character that you interact with for like at most 5 minutes, when you're playing a Shovel Knight campaign. Just enough to get the song scroll and peace out. But she's his partner in that game. And same with Spectre Knight, we thought, well, this is not going to be a side story. This is going to be, maybe this is a prequel.
It's not a side story. It's his story.
It's like his story. Yeah. So like all those characters that you've kind of come to know, and they have a different level of focus, and maybe there's a bunch of new characters, and it was fun to think about like what the world was besides Shovel Knight, like the world before and how that like shaped what these characters are. And so like the story became a much more big focus as those campaigns have moved on. So
and so now with King Knight, much in development, we're not hot on the idea of setting it after Shovel Knight, because we think the game that's after Shovel Knight would be Shovel Knight 2. Yeah. Like that's like the story continues when Shovel Knight sets foot outside of the tower. And so I'm not sure when it's going to be set exactly, but we're still like kind of bandying that about currently. And then same thing goes, like, are you going to do all new levels again, or are you going to remix themes or things like that? That's still something that we're like mixing and thinking through.
Yeah, which characters are going to be highlighted, which ones stand out, which ones are, backpedaled or whatever. So
right, but I would say we've always tried to move forward with the feedback of the previous game's reception, and we also want to provide like a different feel, both in terms of like level structure, in terms of character advancement, and like story tone and things like that. And so King Knight probably is going to be goofy. He's going to be like a silly guy. And
it's like it's something that honors like the fourth playthrough. Like you've already played it 3 times. That's like crazy. So let's make the fourth
once you finish the game as King Knight, the music should stop. It goes to a black screen and text scrolls down from the top and it just says stop. And it says like, hey, this is from Yacht Club. Urgent message. You can stop playing Shovel Knight. You can stop playing it forever. You did a good job. We thank you. Like your service is no longer required.
Also check out
end of carrier.
Can I say that you guys, after King Knight is released, that you guys have enough to do a 4-player beat 'em up arcade style? You got Shovel Knight, Spectre Knight, Plague Knight, and King Knight. Like
that would be radical to the max stream. I agree. I would love it if there was a big sprite brawler style, like Ninja Baseball Man. Like if there was something where like the characters were too big and you were just fighting cool guys as like Spectre Knight, as Shovel Knight, that would be awesome. But I don't think that's the game. If anyone out there is capable of making that, contact us, because we'd love to talk. But other than that, I don't know if that's for us right now.
My boss from NGR Radio, Corey Derrick, he said he wanted to tell you guys hi and that he bought your game 5 times already.
Wow.
So
thank you.
Thank you.
We hope to make all 5 of those versions even better, like this, like once King Knight's done. I'm serious. We're gonna add a game to all of those.
He brought the Switch version when it came out.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was, I've bought it through 3DS and Wii U, and as soon as I had my Switch in hand day one, setting it up, Shovel Knight was the first thing that got downloaded on there.
Oh,
and
wow.
the only thing
Zelda was on cart. You don't need to download it.
Right. Which actually brings me to another question. Did you guys hope to, or is there still a hope to release a physical copy for Switch as well as PS4 and Xbox One, so that it's out on everything physical as well?
We would be very interested in doing that. The reason we didn't for Switch is we were working on Spectre Knight until the last minute because we wanted to put in, we do a lot of play testing and iteration and polish. And so the idea of, if we had to freeze Spectre Knight to get it on a disc 6 months earlier, it would have been a much different game.
Yeah,
because a lot of
needs a lot of lead time.
Right. And for us, once the game settles, we are prone to opening it back up again and changing everything if it doesn't sit right with us. But in addition to that, you mentioned, hey, your friend bought 5 copies of it. Somebody bought this one. We didn't want to release a version that is Shovel Knight plus Spectre Knight plus Plague Knight, and King Knight's not on the disc. If King Knight's truly the finale and the cover shows all these characters on it, we wanted this final version to be everything. It's this is the disc that never needs to get updated. It has all the content, and that's it. You don't have to worry about the eShop going down, in a thunderstorm or anything like that. And so I would say once King Knight and Battle Mode is ramping up for release, hopefully then we can start thinking about minting this on a cart for all eternity.
Yeah,
I can see y'all Battle Mode being City Connection from NES. Going back and forth. I don't know if you remember City Connection. The little car, he had to jump on the little white lines and color them before the policemen and stuff come and get them.
I don't know that one, but that sounds like a cool Shovel Knight game to me.
Look it up. It was an NES game, City Connection.
All right.
So, question for you. Beyond Shovel Knight, once King Knight and everything else is done, are you guys looking to Shovel Knight 2 or something else entirely different?
I mean, back 2.5 years ago, it made sense that we would follow Shovel Knight with Shovel Knight 2. That would be a no-brainer, and it would be a cool way to explore more of the world and characters and mobility. Now that we are 2.5 years forward and have explored newer the characters and mobility through free updates, we realized that it would probably make sense that we would try something that wasn't Shovel Knight for the next game to hit, to reset, to show that we're interested in making other types of games. And so that's
we don't want to be the Shovel Knight company. We want to have our own pillars, and so we're thinking about games that we can push alongside of Shovel Knight that are just as big or bigger, and that and maybe it's a different genre, maybe it's a different art style, something that you haven't seen from us before yet. So
but
we're exploring all those things.
If you played Shovel Knight, you probably have an idea for what we value in making a video game, and in terms of gameplay to storytelling ratio, or something that something that relies on gameplay and immediate control of a character. These are things that we probably wouldn't step away from on a second title. And so that's that's what we're thinking right now. That's where our brain is gravitating towards. Yeah. So
a lot of people are ready to see what you guys could do with 16-bit. Because everybody's Shovel Knight 2 should be 16-bit, but maybe your next game, are you guys looking into 16-bit? Because are there 16-bit?
It's tough. It's tough to say that. It's tough to say that would bring a huge benefit to the game, and so that's we would be cautious to make that jump unless we really feel that making that jump would change the gameplay in amazing ways.
Yeah, I was saying before, it's. In that previous game we were working on, where it was more of the unbound, just make a pixel game. It was just, there's dense pixels, there's tons of colors, usually around 16 per character, or 10 or whatever. That kind of game adds a lot of art overhead, adds a lot of iteration time, it adds a lot of complications to figuring out what the characters can be and what they do and how they act. Right. And you can't just do a quick little animation that makes it into the game in an hour. You have to actually put a lot of effort and thought into every character, and
as opposed to now where we don't have to.
I knew as I finished that sentence that it was going to sound terrible.
I'm here to counterpoint it so nobody feels like you're a monster.
Yeah, so like it adds a lot of complications on not just the initial sprite, but like on all sides, and so it's not something that is appealing to us in terms of a production side, but I mean I love high resolution games.
There are lots of benefits of making that jump. Like those games are capable of conveying mood and like a theme. Like some the feel of being in a Super Metroid cave is like drastically different from being in an NES Metroid cave.
Absolutely.
And so that's like you're able to do that. You're able to do things like a fog layer or like overlay effects and things like that. The music, since the Super Nintendo could sample, is like allows a lot more options in terms of like what you're hearing and feeling as a player. But when it comes to the gameplay side, like obviously, bigger characters, bigger graphics. You could rotate sprites, but that had like mixed results in terms of like your expectations for a game, and usually it ends up being like a weird gimmick boss. You could scale sprites, but likewise, I'm just thinking of every time I say one of these, I think of a different level of Super Castlevania 4.
Oh, I was thinking of Yoshi's Story.
I love that game so much.
Story's like way out there in terms of like tech output. But yeah, and so like these can create unique experiences for sure. But we would want to make sure that the entire game is moved forward and not just like one boss or one room.
Right. And so yeah, it's like we know like we love it. I mean, like want to like dip our toes maybe into it, but like we don't want to like go full on just like high resolution, high pixel density.
It's like we live in a world where like Mega Man 9 is among the best Mega Mans,
right?
And there's like a reason for that.
Yep.
And like Mega Man X is also among the best Mega Man X's.
And the remake of 7 is better than the original.
Right. But like Mega Man X brings like brings a lot to the table that makes it way different than what you think of when you're thinking about Mega Man 3 and 9. Yeah. And so if we were to make that jump, we would have to bring everything forward. But we also think like there's a lot of value in like what's there in Shovel Knight and like what we can do taking it forward just in that realm. So I guess that's what I think about when I think about 8 and 16-bit.
Okay.
Right on. Well, I know we've taken a considerable hunk of your time, so I want to start to.
Can I ask a question? What is your favorite cereal or breakfast item in the morning?
This is the running joke every time there is a guest.
Well, I wish that was something that I ate every day, but Cinnamon Toast Crunch has always been my favorite cereal forever. But I don't eat it anymore because it's just not food.
I like plain oatmeal.
Oh my god!
It's filling. It's easy to make.
It's great. It has no flavor.
Nobody's gonna fight you over it. And like if you leave it on the table and it's like a hot bowl of oatmeal, no one's gonna like say, "Hey, where'd you get that?"
You grew up in like the 40s.
Well, and I just want to say, if you have plain oatmeal, you can make that not plain oatmeal with a million different options. Maybe not a million.
You could like put Cinnamon Toast Crunch in it to make it taste crunchy and cinnamon.
But what can you add to Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Nothing.
Milk.
Once you put the milk in, you're done.
Yeah,
you can't add strawberries. You can't add.
You don't need that stuff.
You can't slice a banana that's about to go bad. Be like, oh, if I put it in the oatmeal.
If you add something to perfection, it's not perfection. It's perfection plus something else.
So milk doesn't count? You just eat raw cinnamon.
No, the milk is important.
The
milk plus cinnamon
toast crunch. So gross. Just
I'm loving all of this.
You said if you have to add
just like the breakfast.
I was counting milk already.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you change the goalposts, you're right.
No, I was already counting milk. Roll back the tape.
I'll kill you.
Roll back the tape.
Oh, and also I gotta ask you guys.
That's the new game. That's the new thing that's coming out is Breakfast Fight. It's just going to be 16-bit renditions of breakfast foods in a brawler.
Can I ask you guys?
That question got surprisingly heated. I'm sorry.
I think that's the best answer we've ever had to that question, though.
How did Shovel Knight get into Rumble? How did you guys was able to do
Rumbo.
that?
Yeah. Well, for a lot. We met the Runbow team at a lot of events because we were kind of on the same circuit. You know, we were at PAX or we were at Indiecade. Nintendo sometimes goes to events and they offer to bring, different teams and games there, even if you like aren't at the booth, which is like tremendously helpful and amazing. And so like at Indiecade, we were there showing off Shovel Knight, and across from us was Team Runbow, and they had like 6 controllers because of the cool system.
It was cool because we'd have our game over here and we were talking about it, and then every now and then we just kind of drift look over there and 13 a.m.
Everyone's
there
having
with,
fun.
9 people, and everyone's shouting.
Cheering and having fun. It's like we're like, okay, back to our one person who's trying to get this diamond. And so we were already like, we met the team and we were talking with them, and so we exchanged information. And one day, they contact us with the offer, and they're like, hey, we're thinking about, we have like some of these characters in Runbow, and we're thinking Shovel Knight would be a great fit. And we're like, hell yeah, that sounds like a great fit. And from there, they made it happen.
Yeah.
And so whenever anyone contacts us about like those kinds of opportunities, we always take them very seriously. Like that's something that we enjoy thinking about. That's something that we enjoy seeing, like just in terms of surprising players or being able to rep a character you like. Yeah. It's always like very exciting to us.
Because everybody wants Shovel Knight in the next Smash Brothers. Like everybody's fighting.
Likewise, that's super neat.
Okay.
I'm holding out hope.
Well, and I think, too, that's one of those things that would translate well because, like you guys said earlier, it's something where there is a fully rendered, 3D realized version of Shovel Knight, not just the little pixel version that doesn't necessarily scale right. So there's already that asset to kind of work off of as well, too. And I can imagine already at least half of a moveset in my head that would be spectacular to play with.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, we play Smash a lot, and I would love to see Shovel Knight doing all of his signature moves and like him in that fully realized style. It'd be really great to see Shovel Knight just like tearing it up in Smash. I would love that.
Yeah, when we see like pitches or like sample, like there's a few images that show like here's how I would make the character, or here's the world or the music I would pick, and like Smash Brothers is already. It's like a collection of just like amazing stuff, like in terms of like character animation, in terms of like the moves you can pull off and how you can like just like the feel of those characters and how they all interact in that world. And if somebody's playing that and thinking like, oh man, who's lacking from here? Like Shovel Knight should be in here with all these characters interacting. That's like tremendously encouraging that somebody would think that. That's like thank you. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those like that are fully thought out. Like they think about like his up tilt and his down tilt, and like, oh man, that's like it's way more complication.
Why are you sending me frame counts? This is too far.
Because I would love to smack up.
I mean, like 3 frames active, 18 frames recovery. What do you think? It's like it sounds pretty laggy. I don't know.
Because I would love to smack some enemies out and smash into the screen, or just like hit them up and they slowly just walk off with the smoke going. That would feel so good. With
yeah, I mean, if, hitting somebody straight up and then in the background falling downwards would be like the ultimate shovel flip of all time. And I would flip so many damn doors.
And the big fish.
I'm feeling the Spectre Knight assist trophy where he sweeps in and it's the giant scythe just across the screen.
Oh yeah, the dash slash appears over the stage. And you're like, oh jeez.
No, it's Spectre Knight would be like a full stage lightning effect, and it'd be the worst thing. It's like it's black.
Unless he's feeling moody, and then it's a black and white like sepia.
Oh yeah,
it obscures info by making the screen black and white. Background, and he's just thinking.
Well, everybody, that's Yacht Club. Here's the pitch.
Yeah, call Nintendo.
Well, guys, we want to thank you both so much for your time and taking the time with us. I'm glad like you said, it's been worked on to get this happening since September, and I'm glad we finally got it to connect and have you guys on. We'd love to have you back when.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I would say we'd love to have you guys back in the future. When there's more news. If as things come along with King Knight, we'd love to hear a little. We'd love to hear about it as you're plowing through it, and anything else as well. So thank you so much for your time. Of course, the last part of our show, it's impolite to invite somebody on and not give them a chance to pimp your shit. So where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
I thought I was. I thought I was already chilling. I'm sorry.
So, Shovel Knight's out on Switch right now. Spectre of Torment's out as an update for, I don't even know.
Okay, so hey guys, if you own Shovel Knight in the past, if you've ever bought Shovel Knight, it's now Shovel Knight Treasure Trove via a free update. Mm-hmm. And this update includes Shovel Knight Co-op if it's on a console or PC version. It includes local co-op. It includes the Plague Knight campaign, which nobody played, but now's a great time to.
Yeah, you should.
And if you don't like it, that's okay. And Spectre of Torment, which is the Spectre Knight campaign, and that released just a month ago. So if you play that, you're like, that's the bleeding edge of what's happening in the world of Shovel Knight. And it'll include King Knight in the future.
And battle mode when that comes out, if you have a platform that is not mobile.
Portable.
Right. Yeah.
You can tell I write the website articles and Laws does it.
Yeah. That's true.
And when I talk, TMs appear after the words.
And the game the game is also out for Nintendo Switch if you guys want the Japanese version.
Yes, we hope to bring the Japanese language version to more platforms in the near future, but currently, it's available on Switch. Like, you can buy Shovel Knight on Switch, 3DS, Wii U, PS4, PS3, Vita, Xbox One, Steam,
Amazon Fire,
GOG,
TV,
Humble Store.
Those are all real.
Those are all real things. Amazon Fire
Linux
TV.
and Mac.
Linux and Mac. Choice is yours. And I don't know. And since I shill Shovel Knight every day, all day, I'm also playing Fire Emblem Echoes, and that's been a lot of fun too. I really like this one. If you kind of felt like the previous Fire Emblem wasn't your thing, this one like really turned me around in terms of like why
compared to was it Fate?
Conquest.
Fate's
birthing, Birthright and Conquest and Revelations.
I
was like,
I have
that like wasn't my bag, but this one's like really appealing to me so far.
And I'm playing Hollow Knight. That game is awesome.
Hollow Knight is not related to Shovel Knight at all. No, but you should play.
You should definitely play it.
I'm ready for that to come to console. I want to play that game so bad. Oh, it looks so good.
It's way bigger than you think. Like. I don't want to spoil it, but like the first few hours, it was like I was like kind of lost and not really knowing what to do. And then the world map exploded, and I went like in huge, crazy directions, and I'm still like finding new things. It's like it is an extremely dense and awesome game, and the characters and the story and like the mood and everything is great. The bosses are hard and fun. I'm having like a lot of Dark Souls flashbacks and Super Metroid, and it's all of it's like really, really good. And I don't say that for a lot of games.
I want all of that so bad. I just seen the trailer.
I think I just popped a chubby at the sound of all of that.
I got Fire Emblem Echoes, but I got it on hold because I'm playing Dragon Quest VIII on the 3DS.
That's understandable. I irresponsibly started Fire Emblem despite Persona 5 being incomplete. So I'm already in like a world of problems. And Stormblood comes out for Final Fantasy 14 in June.
I've seen that.
I can't talk.
I can't believe you plays that still.
Sometimes you just want to do something for 2 hours and it's still good at that. And
it's true.
MMOs aren't as slow as they used to be back in your day.
When I played WoW.
When you played WoW, the time commitment has drastically sorted in our favor.
Can't convince me.
I don't need to.
I love y'all. Work not dynamic. I just love it.
All right. Well, Eddie, pimp your shit, and I'll round out, and we are good to go.
Okay. You guys can follow me on Twitter at @RetroCode. You can also hear my podcast, Optional Opinion, on the Anomalous Radio Network.podbean.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and other podcast apps. You can also hear me on Nintendo Power Block that I do with Corey on NGR Radio. You can read my Optional Opinion blogs at IGN.com under Anime, ENIME, and also read my series, The Moment, where I talk about retro games and how they play part of my life at SkirmishFrogs.com. You can follow me on Twitch at The Lyrical One and watch my show, The Let's Learns, where I take a game, play it as that genre, and explain everything about that genre in that game. So if you guys want tips and stuff, you guys can check that out. I'm also getting ready for E3. For World 1-1 Podcast and for Optional Opinion and for Nintendo Power Block. So, yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah.
Wow, that was so much better than ours. Ours was a rambling mess. Yours was so coherent.
We do this every week, though,
can I tell you guys,
it's drilled in of habit.
Can I tell you guys?
It should really be drilled in habit for us. We should have to pitch our stuff just as often.
I was doing 5 podcasts before I went down to 3. So I was doing the PlayStation podcast and the Xbox podcast and 2 Nintendo podcasts.
Oh, man.
Yeah. For a while here, Pimp Your Shit turned into Eddie's new show. Eddie talks about Eddie's other shows for an hour show.
Yeah, that could be that's a whole series.
But you also, guys, can check out World 11 Podcast at shoutengine.com and email us at world11podcast at gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at world1_1podcast.
Don't forget to also hit the like on the Facebook page. You'll find the news, reviews, and other assorted goodies up on the Facebook page. Join the conversation, join the group on the podcast forums on Facebook as well. Also, aside from Shout Engine, you'll find us for your ease and convenience on iTunes and Google Play Music. We appreciate when you drop a review or a nice little 5-star rating there on iTunes. That helps out tremendously. And yeah, that's it.
And everybody, if you still can find a Shovel Knight amiibo in stores, pick one up.
Yeah. You could follow Yacht Club at Yacht Club Games on Twitter.
We have
that's
Twitter.
How you do it.
Ian writes it.
If you reply to that, then I'm obligated to respond to you. You could reach us there. You could reach us on Facebook. I assume Yacht Club Games, and at www.yachtclubgames.com. Simplify that down to 3 W's. It's been a while since I said a web address.
And the Shovel Knight soundtrack, is it also on Bandcamp? Or if guys want to buy it?
You could find a link to it on our site, or you can go to vertbandcamp.com. But that includes all soundtracks, which is Shovel Knight, Plague of Shadows, and Spectre of Torment, which is like over 80 or 90 tracks worth of
crazy amount of tracks,
and an arranged album, which I think brings it over 100. That's all available, and they're all available under a name your price model with no minimum set. So if you just wanted to get one track for your workout routine because you want to pump iron to the Lost City theme, you can do that. Or if you love the soundtrack and you want to support what Jake is doing and what we're up to here, then you can throw in as many dollars as you believe is necessary. Yep. Either way, it's appreciated.
All right.
Right on. Guys, again, thank you so much for your time, and we hope to have you guys back on again in the future. So
thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for inviting us out, and thanks for staying on us in terms of making this appointment possible. I know we go underwater a lot in terms of just getting stuff shipped, where we can't even talk to our families on the phone, and so so it's good that we've emerged from that and can actually have conversations with real humans like our family and like you.
And we appreciate it.
Yes. And with that, everybody, we will see you later. Everybody say bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Good night.